Let's then look at some common mistakes in Python. One of the most common mistakes is not reading or understanding error messages. Consider a situation where I have a list L. Lists are indexed by object positions. So if I type L square brackets 5, in this case, Python gives me an error message saying list index out of range. What does this error mean? Well, I can ask Python to tell me how long is my list L. In this case, the list contains 3 objects. That means their locations are 0, 1, and 2. So even if I try to access object at location 3, I will get the same error. Whenever you're accessing objects in a sequence, make sure you know how long that sequence is. Another common error is forgetting that dictionaries have no left to right ordering. Remember, in a dictionary, a given key object is always coupled with its value object, but the key value pairs themselves can appear in any order inside the dictionary. Another common error is trying to do an operation that is not supported by the object. Here we have a list that consists of the numbers 2, 4, and 6. Imagine if I type L add 8. Python gives me an error. In this case, the error is what's called an attribute error. Python is telling me the list object has no attribute add. In other words, a list object doesn't have a method called add. The right method is append. So instead of typing L.add, what I really should type is L.append and then provide my new number at the end. So the lesson here is make sure you know the type of the object you're working with and you know what are the methods that the object supports. Another common error is trying to access an object in a wrong way. In this case, I have built a dictionary. Let's look at what are the keys of my dictionary. They appear to be numbers 1, 2, 3, and the values in the dictionary are letters AA, BB, and CC. I might be tempted to do a dictionary lookup like this, D followed by square brackets, and I might just put in number 1. Python is giving me a very short error message, key error 1. How should I interpret this message? If you look at the keys closely, you realize that the keys are actually not numbers, but they are strings. So what I really should be providing here is a string, not a number. Therefore, whenever accessing dictionaries, make sure you know the type of your key objects. Another common error is trying to modify immutable objects. Remember, immutable objects cannot be modified after they've been created. In this case, we have a string called Python. What I cannot do is try to modify the content of the 0th element. In this case, Python is telling me string object does not support item assignment. The fundamental problem here is strings are immutable objects. Therefore, their content cannot be modified. Another common error is trying to operate on 2 objects that are actually of different type. A very common instance of this error is the following. I'd like to concatenate a string and a number. My string is the answer is, and I'd like to simply concatenate that with number 8. In this case, we're getting a type error because we're trying to concatenate a string and a number. The fix is to turn the number to a string, and now concatenation works. Therefore, make sure that you always know the type of your objects. Another very common error in Python has to do with indentation, and this error happens especially frequently in the context of functions. I've written a simple function here with the goal of calculating the running sum up to n. Here's how the function is intended to work. I first set up my result variable, which is my running sum, which is initially equal to 0. I then set up a range object, and I use k to loop over all of the numbers in my range object. What I want to do is I always want to take my running sum and add the value of k to that sum. Once I'm done, I want to return the result to the caller. Let's try defining this function, and then we can try running this function. I'd like to calculate the running sum for the first 12 integers. In this case, the answer is 0. So what went wrong here? Let's look at the code again. On line 2, we define rsum to be equal to 0. On line 3, we start looping over the range object. The first number in the range object is going to be 0, so initially we just simply add 0 to our rsum. At this point, rsum is going to be 0. The problem happens on line 5. Instead of completing the for loop, we actually return rsum during the first iteration. This is why the returned number is always going to be 0. The way to fix the problem is the following. It all comes down to indentation on line 5. We need to move the return statement one level up. Let's now try rerunning the function. Let's now try invoking the function, and the function works this time.